Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining. This is day 25 of Oracle integration training, and in this session we will learn about creating the integration which will implement the FBDI implementation logic for creating the purchase order. In our previous sessions we learned about FBDI implementation where we created FBDI file for creating purchase order, and that zip file we loaded manually into Oracle Fusion applications. This time we will use our Oracle integration which will generate the CSV file, then it will create the zip file, and that zip file we will load into Oracle ERP using that Oracle integrations only. So all these things we are going to learn. So before going to start, let's talk about the data. So what kind of data we are going to expect, and then we are going to load into Oracle. So it can be depends on different projects. So just for quite a straightforward project, so it can be possible that there will be functional team or any other technical team members who will generate this FBDI template file, and they will create you a zip file, and that zip file they will place over the file server. And from that file server you just have to read the zip file, and that zip file you have to load into Oracle. So it's not just loading the zip file into Oracle using Oracle integrations. In case of FBDI implementations, we have one more term as properties file. So in case of each and every FBDI implementation, we require properties file for that a specific load. For example, this case we are going to load purchase order, so we require properties file which contain the parameters related to purchase order in Oracle Fusion. So that's we are going to cover. So if that your project is quite straightforward, that you are going to receive zip file from file server. That zip file contain all these four CSV file which required for purchase order. So you just have to, in your integration, you just have to read the zip file, you just have to unzip the file into in OIC. You have to create one more file that's called properties file, and then you have to merge all these four file plus four CSV file plus one zip file, one properties file in a single zip file. Then you have to load that zip file into Oracle using Oracle ERP Cloud Adapter in OIC. So that's the quite straightforward. Another situation can be that, for example, here you can see for creating purchase order, we require all these columns, right? You can see. So it can be possible that from that, it can be possible. It can be possible that they will tell you that so out of all this column, we will provide you this much of column only, and the remaining column you have to get based on a specific logic. For example, they will tell you that we will give you the procurement BU, and based on that procurement BU, whatever BU we are going to select, that based on procurement BU we have already created lookup in Oracle Fusion. You have to pick the requisition BU, you have to pick the legal entity, you have to pick the bill to BU, and that kind of things, right? It can be possible that they will tell you that in the data file we will just give you the supplier name based on the supplier. For each and every supplier we have only one supplier side in our implementation. So whatever supplier we will give you, based on that please pick the supplier side from Oracle Fusion setups and all. So that can be things can be there in the project. So in this case what you will do, whatever data file they are going to provide, you will just read the data file in OIC, and remaining columns we will use a BIP report. So for example, we will create one BIP report. In that BIP report we will pass this supplier, and that BIP report will return us the supplier side based on the supplier from Oracle Fusion application. And then supplier side we will use in Oracle integrations to map while creating this zip file. So that kind of logic can be there. So this is the two situation. Another situation can be, so whatever data we require to create purchase order, instead of file server, right? Instead of getting data file from file server, it can be possible that they will tell you that we have one database we are using in our implementation. You just have to pick the remaining details from database only, and you have to create a FBDI template file using OIC, and then you have to load. So all these can be the scenarios. So we in this session we are going to make it quite straightforward so that we can just get to know how we can implement the FDI implementation in OIC. And implementing the logic, it can be depend on project to project, so we can do that's day by day, right? So in this video what we are going to do, we know that for creating the purchase order we require this much of column. So how we get to know this? We get to know this just only because before going to a start integration in our previous session, we created one FBDI template file, and we loaded the FBDI template zip file in OIC, zip file in Oracle Fusion, and we are able to successfully create the purchase order. So while doing all these things, we get to know for creating purchase order, all these columns are required. All these columns are mandatory that we have to pass. It can be possible that few of more columns you have to pass based on business requirement. Maybe that business will tell you that while creating purchase order, you just have to provide the payment terms, you just have to provide the change order description or all these things. So all this requirement will come from business, and that functional team in your project, they will let you know that what all columns you have to map in Oracle Fusion. That's why we have in our project we have mapping sheet. So functional team member is creating the mapping sheet, and they will create mapping sheet based on the discussion with the client. So we as a technical, it's rare that we are directly connecting with the client to get the requirement. But yes, each and every project, most of the time you will get that functionally between us as a technical and the client. So that based on that, they will create you the mapping sheet. They will share you the mapping sheet, and they will tell you that for FBDI implementation, we have this much of column, and all this column you will get data for based on this mapping, so that we will create the data. So in this session, whatever required column we have in that PO FVDI, we will get all this column in CSV file, and that CSV file will be placed at file server. So our task will be, from OIC we will read this all four CSV file, or four source CSV file, or source data CSV file from file server, and based on the data we have to generate CSV file in similar to that FVDI template. Here whatever number of column is there, same number of column we will use in OIC to generate CSV file. So we will create all these four CSV file in OIC by taking the file from file server. Then we will create one properties file, and then we will create zip file containing all these four CSV file plus one properties file, and then we will load into Oracle and see that how that is it's going to work on, right? So before going to start, let's prepare a data file. So obvious data file is something that the source data we are going to get from server or somewhere to create the purchase order. So in this case, here this column we will create one CSV file. So we will create one separate CSV file for PO header, another separate CSV file for lines, locations, and distribution. So we will create four simple CSV file as we are going to learn here only. So that's why we are manually creating all this sample file, right? Sample file or data file. But in your project, all this data file you will get from the client only. That from where you will get the data to load into Oracle. So let's move to the first file only. So here we have the PO header file. So let me create one CSV file. And in the CSV file, we will provide all these required column which we required while loading the data into for purchase order. So I'm going to select all this purchase order here. Uh, can see description, supplier side. So here only these columns are required for purchase order header file. So I'm just going to copy this one, and I'm creating one CSV file. So let me remove the asterisks from header, because CSV header file cannot, header name cannot have the asterisks in the name. So here you can see this is a sample file which we will receive from uh, third party system or the client at the file server, and then we have to read this file into OIC, and based on this file we have to generate this CSV file with this column, this all columns. Remaining columns will be null, or that whatever is our mapping sheet is going to define, we will do. So now, so I'm going to save this file as a header CSV file. So somewhere in my system, I'm going to save. So here we have this PO data. I'm going to create PO header.csv. That's save. So our header CSV file is generated. And now we have to create another CSV file that will be considered as a line CSV file. So here you can see whatever line data we are passing, as it's simple data. So I'm going to use same here. So this second one here we will pass, and we require this three column, and yes, after that we don't require any other column. So I'm just going to copy this here, and yeah. So our CSV file, line CSV file will have this much of column. So here you can see we have only three, six, three, nine column we will get from source system, and based on this nine column, we just have to prepare the CSV file in format of FBDI template, and FBDI template having that much of column. You can see here this much of column. So same column we have to generate in OIC. Here you can see, right? So now come back here again. So let me save this file. Go back, remove the asterisks from the header name. So here you can see it can be possible that, right? So it can be depend on project. So here you can see this action as aid, right? It can be possible that they will not share you this column, and they will say tell you that this column you have to make it hard coded, or you have to make it fixed for this, as we are going to create this line. So you just have to add line as a fix. So they will not pass you here. It can be possible that line type they will tell you that when we are passing items, line type you can make it as a goods, or it can be that based on that item you just have to pick the line tab from lookups and all. So just for simple purpose I remove that column, and that column we will make it hard coded. So this I'm going to save as line csv file. Just be with me, it will take few minutes to 4 minutes so that we can just prepare our simple data file, and based on that we will proceed further. So here I'm just going to make a puo lines.csv. So our two data file is ready. Let me delete these two. This one is po header. Yeah. So now go for distribution. So line or schedule. So this line having how many columns? Let me select all this column here, which we have to pass. So this three column. Yeah. So here you can see this attribute 9020. All these are the DFF columns. So obviously it can be depends on your projects. If your project's having the DFF, you can utilize that column. So I'm just going to create a new file again. So remove this asterisk from the file name. So this will be location, right? So it will be po underscore location.csv. So now we have to create one more file. That file is distribution file. So how many columns we have to pass in distribution? So here let's see that this is one column, this three column, four column. Yeah, so for all these four column we required for creating the distribution line. So let me copy here. So let me copy one by one here. New file, save it here. So now our file is here. Let me save, remove this asterisks here. So we save. po underscore. Now our 4 CSV file is ready, which we get from file server as per our implementation. So I'm just going to show you that where is all this file. So here you can see this is our source directory from where we have to get the file. So let me create one more folder here. That folder we will consider as a FBDI underscore PO. So let's example here, and let me, yeah. So let me pass the data file here. So here you can see this is the source directory from where we have to pick all this source file, and based on the source file we just have to generate the CSV file in term of that, or in with the column of related to same as that FVDI implementation, that FVDI CSV file which we have. Then we have to generate the CSV file. So that's zip file we are generating by clicking here. The same we have to generate using OIC. So first here we have to we press the file here. So now our first step to create integration, where we have to first read this file from file server, and after reading that we just have to generate the CSV file according to this all columns, right? So let's move to the integration where we will create integration to first step, read the file from file server. So let me have a look on this notepad. You can see if we can make a step here. So what will be our source? Let me make a note of source directory. So this is our source directory where we have to get the file pattern. File pattern is that we have CSV file. So we'll give the name as star.csv, and all these four files we have to read, right? So let me go to that OIC instance. So this is our Oracle integration. But again, for getting the file from file server, we require connection, right? We require FTP connection so that with the help of that FTP connection, we can read the file from this server. So let me move to that OIC and first create the connection. So go to the design, and here in the connection side, we have to create one connection. So let's see that do we have any FTP connections created. That here you can see in our previous sessions we created connections. So let me search with FTP. Do we have FOAS ERP connections? We have. So let's create one more connection here. So I'm just going to create connection. Let's search that FTP. As for even like if your file server is FTP server or SFTP server, in OIC we have FTP adapter which will help you to connect with that file server, that SFTP server or FTP server both. So I'm just going to create one connection, give the name FOAS underscore FTP underscore. For example, this our source system is ABC, right? So let's example our source system is ABC. So I'm going to give name as ABC and con for connection. So this is our FTP connection which will point to that ABC source system. So and this connection will be as invoke, as we are going to use this connection in between integrations to invoke that file server and get the file from there. So create. Let me put the file connection here so that I didn't forget to find this connection. So now here you can see we have to provide the host details for the server. So what is the host detail for the file server? So our file server host details is 84.8.65.101. Same credentials I have already make a note here. You can see. So I will use this server details here. Now we have to provide the port. So port is this one. And here we just have to provide the details that is it is FTP or SFTP. So yes, it is SFTP. So I will select yes. So how you will get to know that this file server is FTP server or SFTP server? So obvious, from where you will get these details, they will let you know that this is file FTP server or SFTP server. So based on that we given, now we have to give the username. So after that, all these values are not mandatory or not required in case our FTP is public. So I will give the value here. Now we have to provide the password. So password, let me copy from here. Now we given the password, let me test. You just click on test. If user password and everything will be say will correct, your connection will be configured, and you can see the configuration process 100%. But again, the status is in draft just because we didn't save. So just save and it will be in configure status. When your connection is in configure status, it means that it's ready to use in Oracle integration. So now our connection is ready. Just go back. And here in our session, whatever connections adapters we required while working on integration, we will use one by one so that even you will get to know that which we have to use and why we have to use that connections. So our connection is in configure status that can be utilized in integrations. Move to the integration. And most of the time when we are creating integration related to FDI implementation, the integration pattern we are selecting as schedule. So why we are selecting that schedule? We know that schedule integration can be go longer as it's asynchronous integration. So that's why we are using schedule integration, because we know that FDI implementation can take time for execution, right? It can be take 2 hours, 3 hours, 60 minutes and all, right? And we know that every integration having their own limitation, right? It cannot go more than the 5 minutes that when we are creating a synchronous integration, right? And obvious FDI implementation, it means that something that we are going to automate to load process, right? So app driven integration cannot be scheduled on any specific time. So that's why we are going to select pattern as a schedule integration, so that we will create integration, we will schedule integration on a specific time. Every time on the same specific time, integration will execute and it will pick the file from file server. In OIC, it will generate the CSV file, it will generate the properties file, it will generate the zip file for including all this file, and then it will load into Oracle. This all things will be automatically, right? So that's why we have to go for schedule integrations. So let me give the name as FOAS underscore SC, that's for schedule, and this is for import PO, and the source, what is the source? ABC, right? So this is our integration name. Just click on create. So our integration got created, right? So now here you can see the first step is to read the file from file server. So, and obvious, before going to read the file from file server, we should know that what is the source directory, what is the file patterns and all, right? So that's why we have already make a note of all these things, right? Here, what is the directory from where we have to read the file, and what kind of file pattern is there and all. So that we just need these two details to use in FTP connection. So what we will do, we will utilize these two details in a variable. So for that, first we have to create one variable. That variable can store that kind of details. So I'm just going to use assign here to create default variables. The variable which is going to use further in our integration. So that's a generic name I given as a default variable. So it's not default something. It's default name is a concept, right? Default assign. I'm just going to give the name to this endpoint as default assign, and I'm going to create the variable. So the first I will give the variable. So the variable we are going to use, the variable we are going to use for creating the storing the source directory. So I will give the name as var underscore source dir, therefore directory. Now here we have to provide the source directory. It can be possible that in your integration they will tell you that the source directory and all the details you have to pick from lookup. So we just have to add the lookup here, right? So let me do one thing. Let me go to that create one lookup here in this case, so that this statics value which is going to be fixed we will receive from the lookup only. So here I'm going to delete this one. So for that, first I will give the name to the interface. So where interface id, interface id is something that the unique id we given to each and every integration. So in this example, for this is PO inbound integration, so let interface name give as INTI 001. So for example, INTI 001 is our interface id that denotes the PO import PO, that PO import FBDI implementation. So now here let me save, go back and create one more lookup, one lookup here. So I'm just going to navigate to this lookup, and here you can see last time we in our implementation we created one lookup name as int common lookup. So I'm not going to use this lookup this time. I'm going to create another lookup so that you will get to know that again the same I'm going to create. Let me give the name as FOAS underscore int underscore LKP for lookup. So INTF for interface lookup. So just going to click on create. So in the lookup, what we will do, from OIC, we will pass the interface ID, and based on the interface ID, we will retrieve remaining details. That's why I'm going to make a column, first column name as interface ID. So from OIC, we will pass this interface ID, and based on the interface ID, whatever value we want, we will receive from the column name by providing the target column name. So interface ID as we given as INTI 00 I will confirm it later, right? Or let me make a note of INTI 001. Interface ID. So let me give the name to this interface. So column name I will give as interface name. So what is the interface name? So I will give the name as FOAS and ABC ABC import PO purchase order. So let's example, this is our interface name, that's the integration name, or we can say that the application name. So now here let me give one more name to this column is the source, that we can utilize in notifications and all. For example, I am going to give the name to that as source. And what is the source? Source example, source is ABC system. And what is our target? So target is Oracle Cloud ERP. All these things are related to the same interface, that interface INTI 001. Now, based on this interface, what is the source details for this interface? So let me add one column as a source directory. Source directory. And what is the source directory for this interface? So this is the source directory for this interface. And runtime, we will retrieve these details into that variable in OIC, right? So what is the file pattern? So it will be x file name pattern. So file name pattern is something that star.csv. We given here that same we will utilize in integration and save. We require few more column here. We know that we require business unit ID and all remaining things. So we will use this all these details in our integrations. Another time we will let you know that how we can utilize that one, right? So now I'm just going to start this again. I just don't want to lose this page here just for reference purpose. So I just open integration in another tab. Go to integration here. So this is our integration which we created. Let me edit this integration. So here I'm just going to retrieve this column. I'm going to retrieve this column as source directory value, this value based on the target, based on the source column as interface ID, and we already stored that interface ID here, INTI 001. You can see INTI 001. So just I'm going to create one variable var underscore source directory. And from where we will get the source directory value? So we will get source directory value from the lookup. So in OIC we have lookup function, lookup value function. That lookup value function help us to retrieve the data from lookup. So I'm just going to drag this here. It will pop up the configuration page of lookup, and here we have to select the lookup name. So what is the lookup name? Lookup name is FOASINTF LKP. So this is our lookup. Just select this lookup here. You can see total number of column is 6 as of now. You can see all these 6 are column here. So just I selected the column, click next, and here we have to select the source column. So based on which you want to get the data. So based on this column, I want to get remaining data. So this is our interface ID column. So here our source column will be interface ID, and based on this column, what data you want to receive. So I want to retrieve the column data as source directory. So here the target will be source directory. So where is source directory? This one, source directory. You can see. So from the integration we will pass this value INTI 0. This is sample value, right? So it can be multiple rows here based on your data in your integration, and that based on that this column it will return as the source directory here. So just go next, and here you can see this value we have to pass in the mapping only. I will show you that. And if you will not get this value, right, so what default value you want to set, you can set it here. I don't want to provide any default value, let it be same. Just go and done. Here you can see source value placeholder. Here we have to map the source value from where we will get the source value. We already created one variable var interface id which is stored this interface id. So this is our source value. So we will go to the variable part. You can see var interface id. I will map this var interface id here. So now our variable created var source directory which will store the source directory from lookup. Now we just have to create the variable with the file name pattern, var underscore file name pattern. And now from where we will get the data, again we have to go for lookup only. So I will search the lookup value here. I will drag this lookup again. Here I will select the lookup. We'll select the source column as interface id and the target column as the file name pattern. This one, file name pattern. Just go next, next, and done. I don't want to provide any default value. That's why here you can see here we have empty column, the single quotes. So the source placeholder will be the variable which we created, that interface id. So here we can drag this. So whatever variable you already earlier created, you can access that variable in the below. So for example, here in this interface ID, while creating this interface ID or updating, if you want to search the value as variable as var source directory, we will not able to get. You can see Here we are in the edit page of that where interface id, and in the where interface id we are not able to find these two variable val source directory where file name patterns. Why? Because this variable created later, right? That's why in this, while accessing this variable, this creating this variable, we are not able to see this. If you will click here in this var source, so before coming to control here in the var source directory, this interface id is already created. That's why here you are able to see the interface id, but this variable where file name is not created, that's why here you are not able to see this variable. If you will click here, it means that while creating the var file name pattern variable, this two variable is already created. That's why you are able to see this two variable here. So that's the logic of variable. So now we require only these two value as of now to read the data from file server. So that's done. So before going to read the data from file server, right, so we required to get the file name, right? What file is there? So as of now it's quite straightforward, right, that we have the file name as po underscore distribution header distribution line and all. It can be possible that from file server they will concurrent the timestamp with the file name. Then you will not be able to directly read the file. Let example, let me add the file name here, the timestamp in the name only. So underscore, for example, today is 2024, so today is 28, right? So 28 12 2024, and it's 01 file. So let me add these things in all the file name, right? So next time when they will place another file again, or will they will use a different data name, right? But in your integration, if you will fix the file name, you will not be able to consume or able to read the file, right? So that's why Oracle provides its flexibilities to list down all the file placed on the file server with a specific file name pattern. So we got to know the pattern, file name pattern is starting with PO underscore and ending with .csv. This can be the file name pattern. So we given, while reading the file, we given the file name pattern start.csv. So obvious all this file also comes under this one only. Even we can provide the file name pattern as PO underscore start.csv. This will also capture all this file, right? Or this will also list down all this file. So let me go for that PO underscore start.csv only. Save. So now come to OIC. Now we just have to list down all these four file, right? So that we will get to know the file. So for list down all the four file, what we have to do? Where we have to add the list file operation. So for adding the list file operation, we require FTP connection. So we already created one connection. So where is our connection? This one, FOS FTP ABC com. So I will use this FTP connection here to list the file. So FTP connection having the operation as list file. So I will give the operation name as list FTP. Go back, and here you can see what we have to do. We have to list the file. So say selected operation as list file. Input directly from where you want to list the file name pattern, what kind of file name will be there, or file name is there or the file server to list the file. So these two value we will is required here, but these two value we will provide from the mapping, right? As we store these two variable in value in the variable, and variable we cannot map directly here, right? So that's why Oracle provide flexibilities to provide this value in the mapping only. So as of now, as these values are required here, we have to provide anything. So I have provided directly as slash file name pattern as anything you can provide here. So these two will be override when we will provide in the mapping. And here you can see exclude file name. I don't want to exclude anything, maximum 0, and also let it to be the same. We already cover all this thing, right? So now we are just going to click here in the continue and done. So once we added the FTP connection, you will get to know about the mapping. So once you will click here, it will give you options to provide the value, right? So here you can see, if you will open the list file request, here you can see FTP list header. Not in header, you can see your list header. What is the column name? File name pattern. So what file name pattern we want to list? So file name pattern we already have in the variable. And what is the directory from where you want to list the file? So directory is also there in variable. So whatever value we provided in the mapping at runtime, this two will be replaced, right? This two will be override the value which we given in the configuration. The priority is always the mapping. Go back. So now you can see when our integration will be executed, this endpoint will return as the response all these four file present here, right? Four file name it will return back here, and based on that we get to know this is our location, this is the file name. So we will use FTP endpoint to read the file. So that's the thing. So obviously here we have more than one file, so you have to add the for each loop. So I will add the for each loop here. and we have to add for each loop over the response of this endpoint. So response of which endpoint? Response of that list file endpoint. So this is our list file endpoint. This is request. I don't want to go for request. I want to go for response. So expand this response here. This is the list file response. Expand list file response node, and here you will get to know about the array item. That's the file count, item count, positions, file list, right? If we'll expand, you can see files. So inside the file list node you will have an array. That array will store the file name and the file metadata. That's the directory of the file, file name, last modified date, creation date, and size of the file. So we require this endpoint. Based on that, which can iterate the loop. So we given the loop. Let me give the loop name. So I will give the name list file loop, list file for each. This is our endpoint name, and the same I always prefer the providing the current variable, that is a loop variable name, as the endpoint name, and underscore loop var. So now done. So our for each loop is configured now. So we have here, we will get 4 files. So our for loop will iterate 4 times, and each and every time it will pick one file, right? So now based on that, we have to first read the file, right? Or we have to download the file from file server. So obvious, for downloading the file from file server, we require another FTP connections which will download the file. So here I'm just going to add that FTP connection, the same FOS FTP connection, and here we are going to use name as download file underscore FTP. Next, here we have to select operation as download a file, and here we have to provide the directory from where we have to download, file name, what file name we want to download, and the downloaded directory, that means the in OIC where you want to download. So I want to download in OIC as /OIC. This is the directory name in OIC which I want to download from this location. I want to download file in this location of OIC, that's the OIC virtual location. I am going to make it here as uh, download this one, right? So here I want to download this all this file, right? All these 4 file I want to download in this location. And what is the file name and the directory where we have to download? All these things are available in this loop variable or the response of this list file, right? We don't know. So Oracle provides flexibility again to provide these two value in the mapping only. You can see the input directory and the file name. So go continue. I will provide in the mapping only and finish. When the endpoint added, you can see mapping, we already get it here mapping. So just open the mapping, and in the mapping you have to again get the options to provide the value. So once you will expand, you will see that the download directory, we already given the download the directory value as this /OIC. I don't want to override this one. I want to override this to file name and directory. So what is the file name from where we are going to get the file, and which file we are going to get? So that's why we have the loop variable, that's loop var. Loop will, so here you can see we will get in list response, we will get all these 4 file name, and all these 4 file name we added the for each loop, and for each loop will loop variable, each and every time it will contain one file name. So the same file name will be available in the loop variable. So that's loop variable here, and this is our file name we want to download. So file name and directory, it's also there. So this is the directory where from where we want to download the file. So this is done, we given the directory. Now here we have to add one logic, right? Here we have one more catch. So what catch is there? So we downloaded the file. Now we have to read this file, right? So how you will read the file? For reading the file, you can see this file having different file structure, this file having different file structure, this file having different file structure, right? So how you will get to know that which file you are going to download or you are going to read, right? So you downloaded the file from file server. Now you have to read this file. For reading the file, you require providing the file structure to read, right? And all these 4 different file having different structure. For that, you just have to identify that the file you downloaded, that file is related to which file. Is it the header file, is the line file, or distribution or location? To just identify the file name, we know that we have the file name, and where is the file name? File name is available in the loop variable. So now here we can add the conditions to check the file name, right? So let me add one more switch condition. Where is the switch condition? Here, and in the switch condition we will add the conditions, and based on the conditions we will read the file. So this downloaded file, we just have to check what file we downloaded. So obviously the file name is available in the loop variable, so we will go for the loop variable, this loop var, and here we have the file name, right? But what condition we have to check? We have to check that if that file contain that header, it means that is the header file name, right? Header file. So we have Oracle provided functions, check that file is there or not. So let me check the function. Here we have content from something. Yeah, you can see the content. This content function, this content function will return you the true and false based on the value. For example, here you can see the content function. Content function will take two argument. You can see the first argument is the actual source string, and another argument is the target string which we want to find. So you can see the parameters, one argument one, the string that may contain other string, and argument two, the string to look for that we are looking for. So here you can see this content function I'm going to add here. If let me add this content function here. So what I want to know, I want to do here, let me show you in Notepad. So this content function will return you true or false. So for example, this is our file name. Let me go for header only. So this is our header file name. And I want to check that if this file name contain header, it means that we will get to know that our current row is header file, right? So if this file name, whatever file name is coming here we don't have file name. Let me make as a loop var file name. Loop var file name. For example, we map this functions to loop file name, and we want to check if this file name contain header. It means that we will simply get to know that the loop iteration is going to execute. That loop iteration is for the header file. Same way, next time we will in next condition we will check. We will add the condition as that file going to read. If it is lines, it means that the file which we are going to read download, that is the line file, right? So using that way we will get to know. So here we just have to provide a string one, and a string one is our source. So which is the source? The loop variable file name, right? So loop var file name, the same file we downloaded in this step, right? We provided the same file loop variable file name in the mapping to download. So now here second, what we have to find? We have to find as a header. That's done here, right? So here we added the condition if this loop var contain this one, right? So it will return us true or false. So I want to check that is true, right? So here we have one function as true. Let me check that what is returning. Somewhere here we have return boolean value. Boolean value, it will return true or false. So here I'm just going to provide the value as true. That's true. So now you can see our condition is if this function will return as true, it means that the function, the loop or the file name which we are going to read, that is header file name, right? So this is our first condition. Click outside here. Oh, that integration got refreshed here. So let me edit again. Let me save this again so that I don't want to lost anything. Edit the condition. So here let me add the same condition again. So we have the one function name as contain. I just want to know that this contain function is going to contain the file name as header or not. So this is our file name, and what value we want to check? We want to check as header. If that is header, it will return true, and that you want to compare here is true. This one, right? So here click outside. So first condition we added here. So first condition added. So we can have multiple conditions. So obviously we will have multiple conditions to check all these four files. So I'm just going to add one more condition here. To add the condition, just click here, go to add, and add as a root block, right? So I want to add another condition. That's why I added as a root. And here this is the second root. So in the second root again, I have to select the functions contain, and what it should contain. Sorry. So it should contain, this time I will select another one, is the line one, the file name, and what it should contain. So let me pick the name here from, so this line. So lines, obvious in this case it will return true. So let me just provide the mapping for boolean true. Here we have boolean as true. So now these two conditions we added, go outside. Let me add another conditions for schedule. So these two we added here. Now we have to add one more route for checking as line and schedule. So let me again add content function. I have to click on this edit expression builder. First string one, or that the first value for this content function will be file name, and another will be in file name what we want to search. So in the file name we want to search as location as a schedule. So let me copy this one, and here we will to provide, and what if it will return the true value. So equals, I will go and search for true, that's the boolean value, TRU, true. So these three conditions we added. Now we have to add one more condition. Where is this error is showing that? Hence this is the first value.
Location, code,
Yeah.
location.
Yeah. So the single cost we missed here. Yeah. So now here you can see it's green, it's configured. Click outside here. So three condition we added. We just have to add one more condition. Even we can add the otherwise block to just obvious we search that the header, line, and location. So obvious the third file will be distribution. But just for in case if they provide the incorrect value or incorrect file, so I am going to add condition for distribution too. So add one more route here. Go add an otherwise. So let me add the route only so that we can add the condition. So here we are going to add the condition just by contain, make it configure. String one will be loop where file name, and this will be the value distribution which we already did it, and we have to check is it is true. So click outside. So we click outside. Let me add one otherwise block just in case if we have any invalid values, invalid file name and all, so that that otherwise block can execute. Now here you can see as of now we are getting warning. So we are getting warning just because each and every route or each and every switch statement, switch condition should have the any of the element, right? So either we can add log messages and all, but obviously we have to read the file, right? In this case, so just for reading the purpose, we have to add a stage file. Using that stage file, we can read the file. So that what I will do, I will add a stage file here. So as you can see, the first condition is for reading the header file, right? You can see added the condition as header. So I'm going to add a stage file which will read the header file. So this stage action, a stage file action, I'm going to use here. And here we have to read the header file. So I will give the name as read header underscore stage. Go next. And here we have to select the file as operation as read entire file, where we can select read file in segment also, but as of now let's see that let's assume that our file size will be very less, so we are going to select that read entire file only. So now here you can see, do you want to provide the configuration or file reference? So yes, I just want to provide the file reference only for reading because we already added the download file operations which will return the file reference. So I will select yes, and here you can see in no we have to provide the file name and the directory. So file name, obvious the same file name we have in the loop variable, and the directory that's to OIC which we already given, right? So instead of that we will go for reference so that we can directly provide the file reference, and from where we will get the file reference, as we downloaded the file, in the download file we will get the file reference. If we will expand inside the ICS, here we have the file reference. So I will drag this file reference here. Using this file reference, this read entire file operation will help us to read the file. So now we are able to read the file, but obvious while reading the file, we have to provide the file structure, that what kind of file is there. So which file we are going to read here? We are going to read the header file. So header file, and this it is CSV type. So here we have to upload the file, simple file for reading the file. And we know that where is this header file? We want to read this header file, and how many columns are there in the header file? So whatever number of header file column in the header file, same we have to provide here, right? Here you can see same we have to provide. That's why we have to just upload the sample file. So instead of providing sample file or creating another sample file, that whatever file we generated here, we will use the same file, this file we generated, right? So I will use the same file as a sample file. So go to integration, go, and I'm just going to select the same file that I used. So this is our header file which we want to read in this case. So select the header file, that providing the record name, these two are the node is mandatory. So I will give the record name as R, record set name as RS. And here you can see all columns by default are mandatory. I don't want to make all the column are mandatory. It can be possible that in the file any of the column can be fully empty, right? So that's why I will make as all columns as optional, and just any of the columns. So interface header key and all, let's see that it can be that mandatory part. So let's make it mandatory and continue and finish. So now with the help of this endpoint, we are able to read the file. So now let me add another stage file to read the line file. So second condition is for the reading the line file. You can see if I click on here and show you the conditions, you can second condition is for reading the lines file. So now again I have to add a stage file, stage read lines file underscore stage. Stage is the endpoint name, and this is the endpoint purpose name we given. So again I will use read entire file only. Yes, I will provide you the reference, and from where the reference will come from the download file, and all these things will be inside the loop only, so that every time loop will iterate and it will get the file details. Continue. Yes, CSV, and here we have to provide the lines sample file. So this is PO lines that we had. R for record, RS for record set name, and here we have to make all these columns are optional, but at least one column is mandatory. So that's why I'm just going to make first column as mandatory only. You can see these are the columns, the sample value we have in the file. Continue and finish. Let me save here so that we didn't get any error. Now here we have to add one more thing, so I will again add a stage file here, and this is related to, let me check, I forgot, this is related to location, right? This condition is for location file, right? So I'm just going to add again a stage file here, and I'm going to give the endpoint name as read location file underscore stage. We are just giving the name in a such way so that it will be easy for identifying. So again we have to select this download one only, go next, and here we have to provide the location file. So this is our simple location file. R for record, R is for record set, making all the columns as optional, and just make first column as mandatory. It's not mandatory to select first column only, you can select any of the column, but at least one column should be mandatory. So now this three we added. Let me go for fourth. So again for fourth we have to select a state. So either you can search by clicking here, or otherwise you can directly drag the file or action from here only. So this is for the distribution. So I will give the name as read distribution file underscore stage. Continue. Yes, I just want to provide the file reference, and again the file reference will come from the download ICS, and inside the ICS area endpoint here we have the file reference. Go continue, provide the distribution file sample. So this distribution we provided R And here you can see all these columns automatically are coming from the sample file we uploaded here. So let make all column as optional. Go back and select one column as mandatory. Continue and done. So here you can see we added all four stage file to read all the four file. Now in the fourth, otherwise, let me add a one logger only. So I'm just going to add the logger, and in the logger I will give the name as invalid file, invalid files, and invalid file logger. So this is the name I given to the endpoints. Now here, this case till now what we have done, we first added the variable to create few variables which can store few of the values, just like we created variables to store interface name, interface id details, and that we created variable for source directory, file name, and all these two value we are getting from lookup. That's why it's the configuration of the lookup. And after that we added the list file endpoint, that ftp endpoint, to list down all the four files present over the file server, the file server. Then after we just added the for each loop. For each loop is on the response of this list file, so that here list file will return as the for file, so it will iterate four times. And all the four times, first we will download the file, and after downloading the file, because while downloading the file we don't require to provide any file structure and all, right? So that's why we downloaded the file. But after downloading the file we just have to read the file, right? So that only, right? First we will read this file. We will here we will read this file, and after reading this file, based on this data we have to create file header file in this format, right? In this four number of column format, right? So that's why first we need to read the file. So here we added a stage file to read the file. But again, while reading the file we have issues that we have all four different file, and all the four different file having different structure. That's why we required the four stage file to read all these four different file. But how you will get to know that which file you are going to read? The first iteration is related to which file? The header file, line file, csv file. That's why for checking the condition we added switch action. In the switch action we added different route. The first route is for header, another route is for line, the for the location, and the next line for the distribution. And we added otherwise block, so that if we got any invalid files which will not contain all this value, that will go and it will just print the logger message. We done all these things, right? So after doing that, inside the each and every route we just added a stage file to read the file, and in the stage file we provided different structure. Now here till here our integration is ready to read the file from file server. Let me run this integration and just show you the log message. Then after I will implement further, right? So let me save. And here we have one error. We know that each and every integration requires at least one business identifier. So let's go and add the business identifier. So let me add the first business identifier as a start type only. Go outside. You can see error got removed. Let me save. It will be in configure status so that we can activate this integration. Go back. I'm going to activate this integration here. I will select the debug mode so that I can show you the log messages and payload. So our integration is ready. Let me execute this integration. So as this is schedule integration and we have not added any parameters and all, just click on run to execute this integration. And this is the activity stream where we can see all the log messages and all. So let me show you the log messages. Whatever we implemented, it will execute it simultaneously one by one. So let me show you that. So it's taking time to load all the messages and all. That's why I'm going to refresh. So here you can see what weapon integration got started. We added assign actions to create variables. So one issue will expand. You will be able to see we created three variables, that var interface ID, var source directory, and the file name. Interface ID we have the hard coded values int001. Based on that we use this variable using lookup to we fetch the data. So this value we got from the lookup. This file name pattern also we got from the lookup po underscore star.csv. These three variables created using the assign. And after that you can see we added the list file ftp to list down the file, and in the list file ftp we provided the mapping, and we provided the mapping as a variable value. So from where we want to list? We want to list the file from this location, and what kind of file pattern? That POCSV. So it lists on the file, and how many files it lists on. If you will go, this message processed by is something the response of this endpoint, right? And this message received by it means that the endpoint, the value we given to this endpoint. If you will click here, the same value you will get to know. You can see these two value we pass to this endpoint to list down the file, and after listing down the file, what response it returns. If you will click here, you will get to know all these four file we have, right? You can see PO distribution, PO headers, PO lines, and the PO locations. All these four file we got in the response, and on this four file only we iterated the for each loop. Here you can see we iterated the loop. We given the name of the loop is list file for each. If you will expand this loop, you will get to know four iteration, because we got the four file. That's why we iterated the loop, and for each loop iterate all these four times. And for each and every iteration, it will check the conditions we added. So let's have a look on first iteration. In the first iteration, here you can see first it's downloaded the file. You can see the list file operation for each, and this will store the first file name. You can see the first file name is the distribution, and here you can see it's moved here and it's downloaded the file from file server. So how it downloaded? While downloading, it's passed the file name as distribution and the location from where we have to download. So this is the file name, distribution file name, and the location to download. And what response we got from the download file endpoint? In the response, if you will see, you will get to know the file reference. This is the file reference. It means that the file downloaded from file server and loaded into OIC virtual directory. This is the location where it's downloaded / OIC, right? The file name, the size of file 147 bytes and all, right? So now after downloading the file, what happened after downloading the file? We added the conditions, and what condition it's executed? Condition we added using switch, and the switch which condition it's added? Add in the switch we added the functions condition. Here you can see the condition that got true is condition contains file name distribution, because we know that our file name is the distribution file name which we downloaded, right? Here you can see the file name distribution. That's why this time control moved to the root having the condition as distribution as true. And now you can see inside that it's read the file, that stage file, and we given the name of a stage file endpoint based on the file we are going to read. So here you can see read distribution file, and here we provided the distribution file simple, right? So if you will expand, you can see these are the value we read from the distribution file. So distribution file having four columns: HO, interface line, location ID, distribution, and the quantity. If you will move to the file here, you can see distribution file. If I will open, you can see the distribution file having this four column, and all these four columns you are able to see here. Here you can see HO, interface line, location, distribution, quantity. This one HO, interface line, ID, location, distribution, and this the value same here. We able to see, right? The value 1, PO locations 2, 3, and all. So now this is the first switch, first iteration. If you will move to the second iteration, you will get to know the same. Second iteration having the file name. What file name having? If you will see the download operation having the file name as this header, right? So this header file we are about to download. And what file it's read? You can see read having the stage file. We given the stage file. You can see condition as header, and in the header we given the name as read header stage. There you can see, and it's read the header file. You can see in the header we have this much of column, only one records in the header file, and you can see these are the value, right? So these are the four iterations. Till now we done the integration, and our integration is working as expected, right? So let's go back to the integration again. Did the integration and implement the different logic. So what different logic will be there? The next logic will be we are successfully able to download the file, successfully able to read the file. Now it's time to generate the file in FBDI format, CSV file, right? So for generating the file, we know that we have a stage file operation which help us to read the file, and also we have the stage file operation which help us to write the file using write file operations. As we have to create the file, let me delete all this here from here, close. So we want to generate the CSV file in this format, right? So for generating the file in this format, we require sample file, right? Even we require sample file for reading the file. Also we require sample file for writing the file. So in case of FBDI, how we can generate a sample file, right? So we created our file. Once we click on this zip file, right, so we got the csv file. That csv file we can utilize as a simple file for this creating the file in csv format or fbdi csv format. So this is our file. So what I will do, I will create one more. I will create a copy of this file. Import po, this is my file name, so I'm just going to go to the file here, import po somewhere, yeah. So this is the file which I opened, so I will make a copy of this file. And here in the template, I'm just going to get copy for OIC sample template. So now what I will do, I'm just going to close this one and I will open this file. And here, let me enable this. Go to the properties. No, it's already enabled. Edit. And here you can see if I will click here right now, it will generate the CSV file. And we know that when CSV file generated using this one, it's not going to contain the header. But in case of simple file while reading in OIC, we require header file too, so that we can identify the columns, right? So what I will do, for each and every CSV file, right, for each and every sheet, I will add one more line. That line I will consider as a header only. So just I am going to paste it here. So this one was this file we cannot load into Oracle. If you will load, you will get an error because the first row is invalid row, right? So I'm going to add one row for each and every zip file. Now here you can see for all these four file we added one lines here, one lines as a header. But if you remember, when we are creating zip file using this button, so it's whatever number of records is there in the file except that header, it's considering as a data. So this is our first row as a header and remaining row will be considered as a data file, data records, right? So once the zip file will be generated, in the zip file there will be two row, the one row and the second row, and that will solve our purpose. The first row we will consider as a header and second row will be considered as a data. So remaining whatever row after this row we will consider as a data only, right? So let me generate one sample file so that I can show you. Just click on that, and here let me save these two files in my system. So somewhere this one, go to the import from FDI through OIC, and this is simple. I will create one more folder. I will give the name as PO stage sample file FBDI. This is the folder name I given. I want to store the zip file here, so just save. So all the four zip file will be created for all these four CSV, and the all four CSV file will contain one extra row. That row will be considered as a header. So just I'm going to close this one. I don't want to save and all. Now if you will go to this throw IC, this one, you can see this zip generated. Let me unzip this file here. Right here you can see this having four row, and if you will open the file, you can see the first row we get to as a header, right? If we will not provide this value earlier, right, without this file, if I will go through this one, the remaining zip file we created last time, you can see these all are the zip file we created. And in the zip file what we had file, we don't have any of the file as a header, right? Here you can see. Okay, so let me close this one. Here you can see if I will open, you can see we don't have header. We have just have only the line only, right? The last time we created. But this file, if we will load into that stage file, we will not be able to identify the header or name, right? So that's why what I have done this time, when I generated the file, I given one more extra row. That row consider as a header. Any of the file you can choose the, let's say, header. Here you can see we have the header name and all. So now here we have one more issues, that file header cannot have the asterisk. You can see we have the asterisk, and we know that the stage file, when we are using the stage file while writing or reading the file, header cannot have the asterisk. That's the invalid value. So first we have to remove the asterisk. So how we can remove the asterisk? So we will open all these four file in Notepad. here, and I will delete the asterisk. So how we can delete the asterisk? So just go Control F, go to replace, and replace all this asterisk here we have, right? All the asterisk with empty. Just click on replace. So all the asterisks will be replaced, right? Here you can see we don't have asterisk, right? Asterisk got removed. If you will go Control F and search the count of asterisk, 0. So this location file got done. Close. This header also having the asterisk star. Let me remove a space. So replace all this with null. Replace all. That's got removed. Save. Close. Go distribution again. Do the same. Replace all. Asterisk got removed. Save. The last file. Control F. Replace all. So now save. So now our all CSV file which we have now, this file doesn't have any asterisk in the header. If you will click here, you can see we don't have header, right? So this file, this simple file we will utilize while writing the file as a FBDI template, right? So just close here. So now our template file is ready. And now one more thing. So while when we will generate the file, right? So you can see we use template file, FBDI template to generate the file. And when file generated, this is the file name, right? P, capital P, O small, and the distribution D capital, and the interface I capital, and order O capital. So this is the file name generated by CSV. From OIC also we have to generate the same file name. We cannot change the file name. If you will change the file name while loading the file into Oracle, it will generate you an error that file is invalid. So make sure that when you will create the file, you will pass the same file name. So that's why we are manually generating file first. So now we got to know the file name, we got to know the file structure and all. So let's move to that OIC and generate the file. So here in this step, we read the file inside the for each loop. So let me change it to vertical. That will help us easily to identify. So this is a condition. So in the first root one is for header. So we read the header file. Now we have to write the header file in FBDI format. So writing the file, we required a stage file again. So I just click on this plus to select the stage file action, stage. And here we just have to file name. So I will give the name write header, as this condition is for header file underscore stage. Stage is for the stage action. Continue. Here we have to write the file, not read. So, right, so I will select the write file operation. And what is the file name you want to write? So obvious I want to write the file name with this name. So I will copy this name from here. Right, this file name I want to copy. I want to create file with this name. And where you want to create? So we downloaded the file in this location. I want to create the file, create FBDI file in different locations. So let me give the name as temp. So that all four header file I will create in the same location, and I will create a zip. Even the properties file also I will create in this location only, right? So let me copy this temp here and provide this here. So now done. I don't want to go append, because whatever number of row we will get in the stage read, same row I will map in the right. So continue. Yes, here's the CSV file. We have the template, so I will download, add the CSV file, and where we have the CSV file inside this folder we created, right? And this is the extract of this PO import order. And where is the header file, CSV file? This one, header order. Open, and we'll give the name. uh, it's taking bit time just because lots of column R, RS. And here you can see, if I can show you that one, you can see here the number of columns. So these are the columns. These all are the same column we have in the FBDI. You can see these all are the same column we have in the FBDI. So just I will make all column as optional and only first column as mandatory. Just go continue and finish. So here you can see our right header is added. We just have to provide the data to write. So just click here. So this is the mapping. This is the mapper by which we can pass the data to this endpoint, so that this endpoint will create the file with this data. In based on your business requirement, it can be possible that few of the column they will ask you to get from somewhere else. It means that they will ask you to get from lookups, or they will ask you to get from the BIP reports and all. So before providing this mapping here, in the between, after reading and before writing, here you just have to add the logic to extract remaining data. You want to read the data from BIP report, just add the logic here to get the data from BIP report. It can be possible that just all the BIP report here and the same data map to the all locations, all this file. That can be possible, right? So that logic you can add. So I don't want to do anything as our integration is quite straightforward. So just I will provide the mapping here. In the mapping, I will provide the data. And from where we are getting the data? We are getting the data from this location. So where this one? The read file somewhere. Yeah, this read header stage. So I will expand this read header stage. Expand. So this is the array element. This is the array element. So number of record, whatever will be there in the header file, the same record we will map here. So here we have interface key. I will map interface key here. We have the action. I will map the action here. Batch ID. I will map the batch IDs. All this we will get in the data file only. Here we have the document type code here. Or remaining this import source, approval action, orders is not required. That's why I'm not going to pass any value here, right? So if they want to pass, so they will tell you from where you have to get the data. So that data you have to add in OIC and you can provide the mapping here. Procurement BU, this one. Requisition BU, this one. Sold to legality, this one. And after that we are bill to BU. We have the buyer, and then we have currency code. We have rate not required. We have description. Where is description? We just have to find the description, this one, right? So map the description here. And type suppliers, I will map the supplier and the supplier site, this one. So only this column we have to map for the header, right? And if last we will go here, we have and. So I will map this and as a hard coded value. So why we require and here? If you will open the file generated by OIC, generated simply by click on the button, the FBDI template, for each and every file, in last you will get to know one column extra, that's the and column, and that and column store the and value. If you will open any of the line, the distribution and all, so if you will go to the distribution only, distribution line also having the last column as and this value has a and value. So the same value we have to map. So I will copy this one, and the same and you have to provide in each and every CSV file. So here I will provide this and here, right? That's done. So whatever number of record will be there in your data file, that number of record will be created in the template which we generated using OIC. Just validate and go back. So using this endpoint, our header CSV file is written. Now we have to write the line CSV file, this one. So again for that we have to add the stage file. So I will add the stage file here, and same process we have to repeat for all this remaining. So we have to write line, write file, the file name. So what will be the file name? So for line we have the file name as line interface orders. So I will copy the file name from here, and from where we have to write, so we have to write the file at same locations, that is the temp. Go continue. CSV is done. We have to upload the simple line file. So simple line file, this is the same PO lines interface order.csv, right? Again, we have to go for R for record, RS for record set, and make all columns as optional by clicking on this tick box, and make first column as mandatory. I'm generally using the first column. You can use any of the column that you can consider that, so do not be null anyway. So just click on continue, finish. Our line stage file is added. We just have to provide the mapping to provide the data. Just go here, R, and here we have to map. So where is this read line? This is the read line stage. Expand this read line stage. So this record will be mapped to record. Line interface key will be mapped to line interface. Interface header key will be mapped to interface header key. So as this is quite a straightforward integration, that's why we are all this value we are getting in the file only. But it can be possible in your implementation, all these two values, right? Interface line key, interface header key, and remaining columns. You just have to write the logic in OIC, right, to generate these two values. So that's action. Here you can see, if you remember, while action I told you that action we are not going to get in the source file. Here in the source file, that's why we don't have action, as I deleted that column. That action we have to provide hard coded. So what action was there? Let me have a look on that file. So if you will go to this FBDI template which I was using, this one, right? So this the template I can show you. So for the line, the action was add, right? So this column I removed while creating the source data file, just to let you know that details. So I will just click on this and I will provide the fixed value as add. So now line type again we are getting in the data file only. Item we are getting in data file, and then we have item description. So description not required. We have the quantity. So where is the quantity? I will map the quantity here. Unit of measure I will map here, and we have the price. So again we will go and map the price here. So now I provided the mapping all the required column which we have to provide in the FBDI template. Done. The last column as and is we missed. So let me add the and column too. So whatever number of row will be there in the data file, using this array to array mapping, it will generate that number of records, and based on that, it will pick the file from the source and map into target. So our line is ready. Now we have to add the location. So just click here at the stage file, write location underscore stage, so that we will get to know that this is the endpoint where we are writing the location file. Again, the file name, and the file name we just have to take it from here. So this one location, this one, this is the file name, right? So I will get the file name from here. Even this file name and other details you can use from the lookup also. But as of now, to make it quite a straightforward, I'm just using manually. And here the location where we have to write the file. So I already make a note of this term. In the tab we have to write the file. Go continue CSV, and this is the file we have to upload. So I will upload this location file again. Make the first column as mandatory, remaining as optional. Go continue. Somewhere we have, and what's the error? We have run location key is invalid. The column header for value. Column header cannot begin with number or contain any space character. Okay, so here you can see we have a space in this one. So why we have a space? Because while removing the star, we removed the star, but we didn't remove the what we can say, the space here. So now done. We remove the space. Done. Finish. Why we got this error? If we I can show you here. You can see here we have the asterisks, right? So in the first sheet when we were trying to remove, we just removed the star, we didn't remove the space. That's why when the file name header created, this header having the space in the first character, that's why it was showing that error. So we just have to provide the mapping to the location. Just click here. So we'll expand this destination or the target, go to the source, that is the location read or the read location. Expand this array mapping, and this will map this array with this array, and this line interface location key to location key, interface line key to interface line key, schedule to schedule, schedule to schedule, ship to location to ship to location, ship to org to ship to org, and quantity to quantity, and this need by date to need by date, and the promise date to promise date. So these all columns were required for this location CSV. So we provided this. Go to that last column as and we have to provide the value to E and D, and let's validate and go back. So this is done. Now we have to go for the last file, that's the distribution. So again I will go and select the stage file, write distribution underscore stage, continue. I will select the write file operations, will provide the file name. So again I have to pick the file name from here, distribution file name. So this is the file name and the directory where we have to write. So again this is the same directory where we have to write the file. So I will use the same directory. Let go continue. CSV is fine. We have to select the same file, that the distribution file. We have to select the node as record and the record set rs. Hope you already aware about all this. We already had discussion multiple types. Multiple times. Now here we just have to make the first column as mandatory, remaining optional. That's good. I don't want to do any changes there. That's finish. Here we have to provide the mapping. So again, move to the mapping, and this is the point. So go to the read distribution, append this one. HO I will map with this HO. Location will map with this location. Distribution will map with distribution, and the last quantity will map with the quantity. Where is the quantity column? Sorry. So this will be mapped with the quantity. So now distribution we mapped. We require only these four columns for distribution. Our mapping is done. Last map with this and column also. With the help of all these actions, we are successfully able to generate the file, generate the CSV file, all these four CSV file in OIC. Now our CSV file is generated, and now our next target is to generate the zip file. Right, properties file is also there, but as of now, I'm not going to add the properties file, just to let you know the reason behind using the properties file. So, let me check again. So here we using all these actions, we are able to generate this CSV file. And after generating the CSV file, we just have to generate the properties file too. But this time I will not generate the properties file, so that once we will load the zip file without properties file, then only you will get to know that the reason behind using the properties file, right? So what we are going to do, we just have to generate the zip file. So before that, last file I missed the mapping, array mapping. So let me recorrect it, provide the array mapping so that the distribution can be listed with array. This array, you can see we missed the provide the array mapping. So let me have a look on this. Let me map this array to array. So our this complete mapping is done. Go back. So till now we are able to generate all these four CSV file. Now it's time to generate the zip file which contain all the CSV file. For generating the zip file, we have a stage file operations. We will generate the zip file outside this switch statement, right? So once all these four file will be generated, after that we just have to generate the zip file. So I will click here, and again we know that for creating the zip file, we just have to use a stage file operation. So I will use the stage file again, and in the stage file, let me give the name as write zip underscore stage. Next, and here we have to select zip file, and what is the zip file name we have to provide. And you know that in the FBDI, zip file can be anything, right? We can provide any name in the zip file. We can provide any name in the zip file. So what I am going to do, so in the zip file name, I'm going to give the name as FOAS underscore PO underscore ABC underscore underscore import dot zip. So this is the zip file name I want to give, so that the same zip file will be name will be loaded into Oracle. And after that, here where we want to create the zip file, right? Specify the directory to zip. Sorry. So this is a directory from where we have to pick the file to create zip file. So where we write the file, all the four file in this location. So this is the location from where we have to pick the file and generate the zip file, and zip file where we want to write. So let me provide any of the directory where we want to zip the file. So I will give the name as zip. So this is the directory where we will create the zip file. And all these directory are temporary. We already know that a stage file, whatever file we are going to give, that's a temporary file. Continue and finish. So now here you can see we added the stage file. That stage file will pick all the source file available in these locations, and it will create the zip file, and it will give the zip file name that we given the name, right? And it will place the zip file in the OIC virtual directory on this directory. So using this endpoint, zip file will be created. So before going to load this zip file, let's verify that zip file created successfully and having the correct file or not. For that, what I will do, whatever zip file created, we will get the zip file at the file over the email, or we can write the zip file to the file direct, this one only, file location only. Where is FTP? This directory only. So what we can do, this is our FBDI PO. This is the source directory from where we have to pick the file. Let me create one more file folder. We'll give the name as FBDI zip file, right? So here I want to write the zip file here, right? After generating the zip file, I want to load the zip file here before loading to Oracle, so that I can just download and we can verify. Even we can send it over email too. So let's do these things here, right? For that, this is our zip file directory. Let me copy this zip file directory and put it in the notepad so that we can have the same directory. Zip file directory. I just make a note of all these things so that later if you want to recall your integration, you want to do any changes, anything, it will be easy for you to identify, right? That's why I'm using this note and all. So go to the integration and add the FTP endpoint to write the file at file server FTP. And this is the FTP connection we created, FTP FOS ABS con, right? What we want to write the file to file server, right? So I'm going to give the name as write file underscore FTP. Continue. And here we have to select the file as operation as write file, and here we have to provide the directory that where we want to write the file and what is the file name. So all these things, right, we will provide from the mapping only, right? So I don't want to do anything here, but it's required. So let me give the directory as slash, and there we have to file name. Go back, and no, I don't want to provide the file structure, so that's why I selected no, so that I can provide the file reference. And from where we will get the file reference, we will get the file reference from this stage response, right? Stage write zip response. This will create the zip file, and it will in response it will give the zip file reference, the same zip file reference we will provide here. So click on this one, right? In the ICS you can see this is the file reference we want to give the file that need to be right over the server. So the response we will get from the right zip file, right? So here you can see right zip file stage, expand this one, expand. Here in the ICS you will get the ICS array, the file reference. So let me map this file reference here. Now here in the properties, you can see we have to provide the file name, right? What file name we want to write, right? So the file name we want to write is coming from the same properties file only. So this is the zip file name. This one is the file name and the directory where we want to write. So no, that will, this is not the zip file, right? This is the file of the, this is the file name and details for the FT file reference, right? So here we just have to, this is the header, outbound FTP header is the file name at the file server, what file name it want to write. So I want to write this with the same file name and the directory. So directory in the FTP directory, what directory we want to write. So in the FTP we want to write directory this one, right? This is FTP zip file directory. So I will copy this one and I will provide it here, right? So now it's done. Validate and go back. So here you can see, if you will see the zip file we created, in the zip file we given the name, that's we given the name as a static name, right? So every time it will create the zip file with the same name only, right? So that's not like looking good, right? So if we run integration 10 times, all 10 times it will generate the same file and it will replace over there, right? So instead of that, I will concatenate the timestamp here. For concatenating the timestamp, we have functions, right? So what we can do, we let me create one variable that will store the timestamp as a numeric values. So let's go here. I will create this one variable var underscore timestamp, and we have datetime functions, format datetime functions, so that we can create the file. So let me check the syntax for that. So this is the format timestamp. Like using this format datetime functions, we can create a date values as a timestamp. So I will utilize that one. So the first we have to use date time, and then we have the current date functions and all. So let me go here and generate the syntax. So first we have to use current date time. So I will use current date. Current date will give you only date, but we want date and time only also. So I will go for date and time. This is the current date and time function. And this is as this is a date time values. We have to convert this into the string first. So let me search the string function here. So this string will convert this date time into a string. Oh, sorry. So here, now here we have to add date time. So where is this current date time? Sorry. Let me search with current date time. This one, I will drag this one here. So now this function will give you the current date and time with minute second, and this function will convert that specific current date into string values. Now we have one more function, that format date time. Format date time. So this format date time function will take you a string value. Oh, this 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 will take a date time in a string format, and it will convert that value into the desired format which we provided here. So that's the desired format is our this one, YYMMDD hour minute second, right? So let me first again do the same string here, this string, and inside the string we have to provide the date time function. Current date, sorry, yeah, this is the one, current date time. So now what is the format? So this format will be replaced with the format which I have already taken. So let's remove the space from here. So this is the time format. And also I don't want to give this hyphen and all this one. So let me remove the hyphen too, so that it will consider as a numeric value. So now let me copy this and paste it here. Right. So this is our syntax to generate the timestamp, and this variable will store the timestamp value. So timestamp value will be like year. So 2024, and date is year, month is 12, date is today is 28, and minute hour seconds, right? For example, it's 20 is our hour, minute is example 15, and second is 05. So this kind of value it will generate. So now this value we will use in the file name to concat, right? So zip file name, that will be like really helpful for us to write the file, right? So this is the zip file endpoint. I will open this endpoint, go next. This is the file name. So edit the file name, add the concat function. This will be the file name underscore the timestamp I want to concat. So where is the timestamp variable we added? This variable here. And now again we want to add as dot zip, right? So this is the latest file name we were given. Click continue, continue, and finish. So this will generate zip file name which will contain the timestamp too. And after that will be that will be written into the file server using this endpoint. So till now our integration will just generate the zip file, and it will place the zip file to file server. So let's go back and run the integration and verify the zip file we created is correct or not. Once this will be correct, then we will load. If there will be any issue, then we will correct that issue, and then we will generate another file. So that's done. Let me run this file here and run. So once this integration will be completed, it will generate the file, it will generate the zip file, and that zip file will be placed over the file server using the FTP connections which we added. So this is the one iteration right now. Refresh, iteration will be increased. So as for each and every iteration, it will read the file, it will write the file and all. So here you can see second iteration. Just wait a file to complete this integration. You can see the iteration completed, process completed successfully, because uh, let me check. Is that we done mistake? So maybe it seems that we generated the zip file inside the for each loop only. That's the incorrect. We have to generate the zip file outside the for each. Let me see what's happening. So if it is like that, it will generate the four different zip files. So let me refresh here. Here you can see the zip file generated, and if you can see the zip file, sorry. So let me first download the zip file here. Zip file generated. Go back here and inside this, where zip file generated. So where is the location? Through PO data. Go back. This PO data. This is the zip file, right? So let's write the zip file here. So now here you can see inside the zip file we have the four files, right? So now if you will open any of the file, now you can see this is having the correct value. This all the file generated, right? You can see it's, and DV is the last column. So which one is the file? The distribution, right? So let me verify the distribution file here. Let me close this. DV, it was DV, right? So what was the last column for distribution? If you will go, the last column for distribution is DU, and DV is for end, right? So you can see we generated the file. So even if you want to verify more, so this is the file which we generated using, this is the file which we generated using this OIC. If you will open this file somewhere, so, so let me open this distribution file in distribution, or let's go for header only. So this is the header file. Let's open this header file in Notepad. Where is this one? Let me, no, let me open this file in the Notepad here just to verify. So where is this import FBDI to OIC, this PO data file? So this is the first, this is the header, this header generated by OIC, and now I'm going to open the header generated by manually, that manually we generated, right? So we generated in the sample one only. So import PO and the header, this is the header. So these two are there, right? So let me copy this one and let's compare. So only the one line we have to copy here and compare. You can see, so the file having the same value as manual, that we generated the file manually having the same record, same value we generated using OIC. Right, so this is a only we verify using header. So obviously it will be same for this remaining which we created, right? So now using this way we verify that our file created is working perfectly fine. Right, so in the iteration, for each and every iteration, if you will go, yeah, you can see we have done mistake. So what mistake we have done? Inside the iteration, right, inside the for each loop only, we added the logic to create the zip file, and we added logic to write the file at file server, right? So that's the correct, because each and every all the four time it's generating the file, generating the zip file, and writing the file over file server, right? So that's the problem that we should not do. So as the file name is having the same file name, that's why when it's writing to the file server it's appending, but that should not be the case, right? So we should use generating the zip file and all these things outside the for each loop, right? So let me edit this integration. So our first part is completed, right? We are successfully able to generate the zip file, and the zip file will be able to load that file server. So here you can see where is our loop. So this is our loop. If you will see, we done all these things inside the loop only. So inside the loop we just have to write the file, read the file, write the file, right? So these things we have to just go outside the loop. So I will just cut this from here, and this is the outside the loop. I will paste it here, paste. So we done move the endpoint. We just have to move the mappers too. So we did this cut, we did here, and this stage file is able to write the zip file. Now we have to move the zip file, or we have to write the zip file to file server. So just we have to go outside here, we have to paste, right? So now we have to load the zip file to the to Oracle Cloud, right? So let me do one thing. Let me generate one more file manually using OIC, and we'll load the file manually, right? So let me activate this. So every time whenever you will create integration, create integration step by step, so that if you will get error anywhere, you can resolve that error, right? So let me go to the file server. Let me delete this file, right? So I deleted the file. Right now we don't have any file here. Go back, and this header, right? So this header having that one of the column, let me show you the column, edit with uh, not bad here. I will show you the column as the batch ID, right? You can see this 1009 is the batch ID. So let me change this batch ID as 1010, right? So that this batch ID we can pass while running the import program, right? So I'm just going to close it. So now you can see we have changed this one date. So let me just verify this got changed or not. Yeah, it's got changed because all these four file having the time as 1818, and now this file header having the time as 20 because we just changed the ID value here. So now let's run the integration. So this one, run this integration. We will just wait to complete this integration so that this integration will place the file at file server. Instead of file server, you can please take the same file over your email just for development purpose, and later once the development will completed, you can remove the logic for getting the file at a email, right? So let me finish the four iterations completed. After this integration iteration, we just have added the logic to create the zip file, write the file to file server. You can see write file underscore FTP. Process completed. It means our integration completed. Go to the FTP, and inside the FBDI zip, we just have to refresh here so that it can load it. You can say zip file created. What is the name of the zip file is last with 923. And if you will see here while writing the file, if you will see the file name, you can see 923. This is the same file which we placed at file server. So now let me download this file. Let me delete this two from here. Now let me download this file in our local system. So this is our file which we downloaded 9237, and if you will see this zip file having all these four file, and the header file having the ID which we given, that the group ID is 1010. Now this file we have to load into Oracle. So where we just have to move to the Fusion. So this is our Oracle Fusion applications. Let me log into this Fusion applications. So now we generated the file using OIC. Earlier we were generating file using manually using FBDI templates. So now, and then after that we will go for loading the same, doing the same process using OIC. So here we just have to go to schedule. We have to load the file, right? For loading the file, we have import ID name as load interface file for import. So I will select the import program as load interface file for import. Import process we have to select as import orders for purchase order. It's not required, right, every time for development doing all this thing, but I personally prefer this step so that I never do a mistake while writing the integration, right? So that your integration development go through smoothly, right? So that if once you will done with your integration, you will be make sure 100% sure that your integration is going to work perfectly fine, right? And obviously I just have to give you all these things brief so that you can get to know the steps process and all how it's working, right? So here you can see the import program, right? The load interface file for import, which we run manually here. This program we have to run from OIC, and the zip file which we loaded manually here, the same zip file we have to pass through OIC. That step in next step we will add, right? In the integration we have to add that step. So let me just show you that the zip file generated by OIC, that is perfectly fine. That zip file is working fine. You can see transfer file, load interface file, transfer file, all this completed successfully. Just click on hierarchy button so that it will show you in the parent child node so that it will be easy for you to understand. You can see that's we loaded, right? All this four file loaded. Just now go and click on this import orders, import order. So here you can see we have two steps. First, load the zip file using load interface file for import, then run the import program, that is import orders, to process the, so sorry, here we have to select the import orders, yeah, to process the zip file we loaded. So import process we have to select, oh sorry, we selected the import process but it's opening load interface file for import. That's correct. Incorrect. Let me refresh this page again. Sometimes you can get these issues. So click here. This is the import order, this one. and click on OK. Yeah. So the import order, this is the ESS job which will load the data file from the record from interface table into base table. So this will ask you few parameters. This business unit, we know that our in our data file we added the business unit as a US1 business unit only. You can see the US1 business unit and all this. These are the basic details, right? So here you can see in the import state source, we will not pass anything. Batch ID we already given. So whatever the batch ID we given 1010 in our file, right? So if you will see the zip file we generated, this one, right? So in the zip file, the header, if you will see the value batch ID we given as 1010, this one 1010, right? So this is the same batch ID we have to use here, 1010, so that in the interface table it can be possible that in interface table they have lots of record, right? Maybe other user are also loading the file, right? But even if you will pass the batch ID, so it will retrieve only the batch ID records which you loaded, right? With this batch IDs. So as process is 77. This is the second step, right? After running the load interface file for import, you have to run the import orders ESS job, right? And all these things we have to do from OIC only, right? So that user don't need to do anything. So let me show you that. I'm just doing these things to just to verify that our file is generated, that is working perfectly fine. Don't have that any error. Uh, just allow me 1 minute. It is still. Let me again check the status that it's completed or not. So yeah, here you can see the import order program got completed. Program, ESS job, and everything are same only, right? So here you can see if you will go to the log here we have the text file. The text file contained that the name. So let me hide this one. Hide video. Got the message. Yeah. So here you can see our purchase order is created successfully. That's the purchase order number. So now it means that our file which we generated, right? It's working perfectly fine. It's good, right? So now we just have to add the logic in OIC to place the file in Oracle Cloud by running this load interface file for import. So how we can do? So let's move to that OIC and do a step one step by step, right? So just we are going to edit this integration again. In OIC, we have one connection that ERP Cloud Adapters. That using ERP Cloud Adapters, we can create connections that can interact with the Fusion applications, right? And that connection have flexibilities to use all these operations and all, right? So first we have to create the connection. So let's move to the connection part. And here we have to create one connections. So I will create the connection by selecting the ERP Cloud Adapter. In case of HCM, they have Oracle HCM Cloud Adapter. You can see here we have Oracle HCM Cloud Adapters and also using in HCM we have that SDL loads and all, right? So we are just discussing the FBDI, so we'll go for ERP Cloud Adapters, right? So here we have Oracle ERP Clouds. I will select this Oracle ERP, give the name. So I will give the name as FOAS underscore ERP underscore ABC underscore com. So just we created connection. Here we have to provide the host. The host will be obvious that our Oracle Fusion URL, right? So this is the host because this is the target where we want to hit, right? Where we want to invoke. So that's host we given here, and it asks the username password. So this username password will be the Oracle Fusion username password, which we already have a note here. So this is our user. That which user I am using here. Let me see. Right, it means that we get to know which user have the access to create orders, right? So what is the username? Let's go for Calvin Roth only. So this one, the first user for SCM, let me copy this one. So this is the user which we require to create connection and the password we have to provide, right? So I will use the Fusion. And remember, this is the Fusion user and password, right? So I'm just going to copy this one here, paste it. So you can see the user password we given, we selected the URL that which we have to it. It can be possible that from the same OIC instance, right? You can see this is dev 18, right? So that's why we selected dev 18 and user for dev 18 and all. Same OIC instance, if you want to hit different Fusion instance, that dev 12, dev 16 and all, you just have to change the connection and provide the details. That also we can do, right? So using this detail, when we will use this connection in OIC, it will hit this ERP application, right? So just now click on test to verify that the details. Now it's in progress. Here you can see something it's showing here, authentication fail. Let me check why it's showing fail here. Everything is fine or not, let me check. It is the same we used here. Yeah, it's same. That's the user, and the password is also there same. Let me test again. Oh, again getting an error, unable to connect this connection. Let me check why it's showing that. Yeah, so it's able to connect. Maybe that there is issue with the user, maybe so. But let's see that this user having that access of supply chain or not. So Case Brown Finance. So this, let me again change with the user and see that is that issue with the user only. Mhm. So here you can see until we will got this 100%, we will not be able to process, right? So again, this user having issues. Let's see. And again, if I'm passing this user, mm, let's say this user is working perfectly or not. Yeah. So this we just changed the user, that the Cassie Brown, and that user is working fine. Maybe there is some issue with that user which we are using to try use Cassie Brown. So let's see this user having that access. So hopefully using this user we will be able to see. So for creating the ERP Cloud Adapter connection, we just have to use the URL, the Fusion use URL to which Fusion system we want to hit, and the user and password for that Fusion system, right? So we given it's completed 100%. We just saved. Once we will save, the status will be changed to from draft to configured, and then we will be able to use this connection in OIC. So using this connection only, we will be able to execute this load interface file for import program, which we executed manually, right? We run manually while loading to load the file, right? So that's we will do. So this load interface file. So from OIC, how we can trigger this load interface file for import, we will be able to see next. So now our connection is configured and it's ready to use in OIC. Let's go back. No need to save here. This is our integration. Let's go to the integration tab. This is the integration. Let's edit this integration now. And here you can see, so using this endpoint, we are successfully able to load the create the zip file, that we zip file loaded it to the file server, which is not required in the case, but we just as for brief purpose and the reference purpose, we created the zip file, loaded the zip file to file server. Now this zip file we want to load instead of the UCM server, we want to load to the ERP cloud, that the UCM server only. Sorry, instead of that we mentioned that FTP. So we already provided the zip file to FTP. This zip file is perfectly working fine. We have to load the zip file to ERP Cloud Adapter here using ERP Cloud Adapter. For that, we just have to add the ERP Cloud Adapter which we created. So just click on plus. Here you can see the this FOS ERP ABC connection we created, right? So just select here and give the name. So this connection is going to help us to load the zip file to UCM, or that load the zip file to ERP Cloud Adapter. So we'll give the name accordingly. And this, whenever you will create this connection and you will add the connection in OIC, so this connection will take some time to load. So it's common that obviously whenever you will edit or add this connection in your integrations, it will take time to load the configuration page and all, right? So don't be worry about that. Yeah, sometimes it depends on the networks and all, so it can be a bit slow and fast, but it will take time. So we are able to see this here. So we just have to give the names. I will give the name as what we can say the name, bulk upload ERP, right? So just click on continue. So once you will click on continue, in the next configuration page, you will get three options. The first option is query, create, update or delete information. And remember this, using this endpoint, we are able to work on this Fusion applications only, that the ERP application, right? So as This time we just have to load the file to UCM server for FBDI implementation so that it can invoke the load interface file for import. So we have second operation as import bulk data into Oracle ERP Cloud. The first operation we are able to, here you can see this is able to query the ESS job details and perform operations, query the details of the transaction created in Fusion and all. And the last one is just for sending the file to UCM server. The sending the file to UCM server is something that in the previous session we use import and export features to upload the file to UCM server. But this time we just don't want to upload the file to UCM server. We just want to load the file and run the load interface file for import. For that, you just have to select the import bulk data into Oracle ERP Cloud and go next. Once you will move next, it will ask you other details. What other details it will ask? It will ask you the select import process name. So that based on that import process name, it can select the file UCM directly where this the zip file need to be placed. So here again, it's taking time to load. So once this will be configuration page will be loaded, we can select the details. Now you can see we have the select bulk data import process. So this bulk data import process is something that we are using import orders. And this is not this ESS job, right? If you remember when we selected this load interface file for import, right? This one. Example, let me add this one. Load interface, right? So once we selected this load interface file, here we are selecting the import job name, right? This one, import process name, right? Here we selected the import order, then we selected the file which we have to load. So this two step will be done here. So here we have to select the import process name, which is import order, import orders. You can see this import orders, right? So once you will select the import orders, go below. Based on that, here you can see the UCM account, PRC for procurement, purchase order, import automatically selected. This is the import job name and the package name. So these two details we required while creating the properties file. So what I will do, I will just copy these two details from here and I will make it in Notepad, right? So in most of the interview, they will ask you that from where you can get the import job name. In properties file, remember these two details are required, right? So from here, we can easily get this import job details. Otherwise, we have the setup and maintenance for in the Fusion. We have setup and maintenance from there in the ESS job scheduler part. You can find these details, right? So here instead of that, I generally prefer that easily I'm going here and get the file here details from here. So now you can see we have one more option, the job params properties file. But the properties file it will it will pick from somewhere else and all. So as of now, I don't want to provide any properties file and all, so that I can show you that what will happen if we will not provide the properties file, right? So that will show. And after that, you can see all failed record was supporting loaded in process file. So that I don't want to do anything. Everything is coming from the import job which we given. And the extract you can see here the extract file. So what extract file you want to get? So whenever we are executing any of the ESS job from here, we are getting the log file details, right? The attachment as a log file and all. So that is related to here. So every time we are generally using all, so that either it can be error file, log file, text file, anything we can get in the response. And the response we will not get here. The response will get in the in the callback integration, which we will cover later, right? So now extract all is done. Here we just have to go and click on continue so that the details will be configured in this endpoint. And here you can see after that, do we want to see any details and all email notification, and obvious that email notification and all will come from the Fusion applications only. So no need to worry about anything. We just have to select the upper things what we can select, the email, bill notification and all. So that once it will completed, that process will be completed and the notifications will be sent. But generally we are not saying here. And here you can see one more option is there, callback checkbox, right? So as of now, if you want to create callback integrations, you just have to make a tick here. So once you will tick here, your callback integrations, callback event will be started for this ERP cloud load, right? So this callback we will cover later. So once you will enable this tick here, so once this integration will be complete executed, it will load the file and it will run the load interface file for import. After that, it will load the import job order, import orders, and then once this will be completed, it will automatically run the callback integration. That callback integration is nothing, it's a concept where we are using ERP Cloud Adapter as a trigger endpoint, and whatever ESS job we selected, based on the ESS job, it's automatically filtering the messages and notification, and that we are going to get the log message and everything, error files and all in the callback integration. which we will cover, right? So right now I don't want to select this checkbox here. Just go and continue and finish. So now you can see our endpoint is added. We selected the import program, but we have to select the file, which file we want to load. Same as here while running this import job. Here while running this load interface file for import, we are selecting this file here, right? The data file, which data file we want to load, right? We selecting here. The same we have to provide here in the mapping. So if we will go to the mapping, in the mapping, the bulk data load, you will be able to see the here file reference and the properties in the file name and all. The header type and all, we don't want to provide anything because import job options, everything we given in the configuration only. So the file reference is the zip file reference we have to provide. So just to navigate and search the zip file. So you can see right zip file. This is the endpoint where we created the zip file. Just go and open the zip file here. So this file reference we will map here. This zip file will be loaded using this ERP Cloud Adapter, and here we just have to provide the file name. One more thing, that the file name. So this file name here. Now done. Validate. So in the ERP Cloud Adapter mapping, we are just providing the zip file details, the file reference and zip file name, ESS job details and all already we configure here in this endpoint, right? So now we saved. In the response of this endpoint, we will get the import process ID. That whenever we are running any of the ESS job, we are getting the process ID. This process ID we will get in the response of this endpoint. So I will run this integration and I will show you that how it's going to load. So let me activate this integration. So it's taking time to activate just due to that we added lots of endpoints and all. So based on that, it can also take time to activate. So just wait and try to refresh in some time. Now you can see the integration got activated. We just have to run this integration, go and click on run. So again, when we will run this integration, it will pick the file from file server and it will load the file, right? So again, we just have to change this import ID so that it will pick the new import ID. Otherwise, the same we already loaded, right? So just click on edit header. Here you can see this is the one. So instead of 10, we will make it 11, 10, 11, right? So let me save this one. It got saved. If I will refresh here, the time got changed. So now we just have to run this integration. Click on run so that this integration will pick all these four files from here. It will create the zip file. It will place the zip file in this folder, here. You can see right now we have only one file as 923. Let me refresh so that we can get another file here. Just waiting to complete the integration. You can see the new file 820 created here, the new zip file we got here. And if you will go to this monitor here, you can see, let me show you the process ID. You can see import bulk is loaded, executed, and the response of this import bulk, you can see here what we got, the process ID. You can see the result is the process ID. What is the process ID? 756631. Copy this one. This is our integration. This is our fusion instance, right? If you will refresh here, the same process ID you will get, right? Here you can see this is the same process ID. Search here, the same process ID, load interface file for import. Here you can see 756631 loaded here, right? So this is the same we got from here. So now whatever zip file we generated in OIC, the same zip file loaded into Oracle, and it's automatically executed the load interface file for import. So it's executed the load interface file for import. But remember, after loading this, running the load interface file for import, we are manually running the import orders. So right now in our integration, we have not added the logic to run this import job. So we will just have to run this import job manually. So again, I'm going to go for schedule. I will select the import orders, this one. Okay. And here I will select the batch ID as 1011, which we given. Now submit. So here you can see when we submitted, right, we got again the process ID and that's all these things, right? So this one automatically OIC should automatically execute this import order which we executed manually here this time, right? This order. So how OIC will execute this import order manually? That's why we require properties file. In the properties file, we have to provide this ESS job definitions, ESS job path, right? So that OIC will get to know after loading the zip file, after running the load interface file for import, we have one more task. We have one more task to run the import job, that is import orders. So how OIC will get to know that which ESS job we have to execute? Just because the properties file. That's the use of properties file in OIC, right? So right now, if we have not provided the properties file in zip file, it didn't run executed the import orders ESS job, right? There you can see import orders got completed. So now we have to run this import orders automatically, right? So for that import orders, if you will see this import orders, you want to search this program. So how you will get to know this ESS job details? So which we already here, you can see we already copied. This is the path and definition that import PO job. This is the short name of ESS job. This is the directory or the path where this ESS job located. And if you want to search these two details, where we got these two details, we got these two details from the ERP Cloud Adapters only, right? So now how you can go this the another way, just go to the setup and maintenance. So let me see. So here you can see as we have not provided the properties file in integration logic, that's why it's not automatically executed the import orders, right? Import program that we have to execute just by providing the property file. The properties file, the content values. What properties file content? Properties file content the ESS job details. That the ESS, this import orders details. This is the short name of import job name. That's the import orders short name. And that this is the directory where that import orders located in Oracle Fusion, right? Somewhere else in Oracle Fusion database and all, right? Where it's creating. So these two details from where you got? We got these two details from ERP Cloud Adapter itself. That's a quite simple and easy straightforward way. Another way is to get all these details. Just go to the setup and maintenance of the Fusion applications. Let me go here. Let me see. So this user doesn't have access for setup and maintenance. So let me log in to the same application using another user. So another user, we have this Cassie Brown. We'll sign out here. So if you will go, you can see this user having the access of setup and maintenance. Click here in the setup and maintenance. In the setup and maintenance, you just have to go for global search. That's called global search. This is the local search based on the task on the functional area you selected, that the financials and all. So here we just have to global search. As I'm not aware about that where that job is located, we just have to search for the schedule percentage schedule job something is there. Let me search with that. What's the name? Scheduler something is there. Here you can see enterprise scheduler. This one, any of them you can check, right? The scheduler, define Oracle enterprise scheduler job for workflow, not scheduler job. Somewhere here we have scheduler job for supply chain. Somewhere you will get to know. Here you can see this one, manage enterprise scheduler job definitions and job set for customer relationship management and related application. This for CRM, this is for supply chain, this is for human capital. Any of the three you can select. So let's go for supply chain. And the job set is something that this one, right? So when we are running the single ESS job, right? The single ESS job called as job and the multiple ESS job containing the same ESS job called job set. So just for example, we are running the ESS job as load interface file for import, and the load interface file for import ESS job set having multiple jobs, right? So just for brief, if you can see, this is the job set, right? The load interface file for import is job set. The job set having multiple jobs inside this. You can see once you will expand, you will see transfer file and load file to interface. These two are the job which is under the load interface file for import. That's why load interface file for import is called a job set, and this import is the job, right? So here our job name is import orders. The job name, program name, process name, all are same, right? That ESS job names, all are same. So here we just have to search the job name. So our job name is import order. If you will search here in the import order, you can see the import order display name, and what is the name? Import as imports PO job, right? The same details you can see here. We copy this one, imports PO job. If you will edit here, you will get to know what's the parameters are there, what is the path of that one. You can see this is the same path which we have here laid, right? We got these details from from this ERP job cloud adapter, and the job name you can see this imports PO, right? These things. This is the same details, right? So there is two way to get the ESS job details. The one way and the that is the quite easy way, use ERP cloud adapter to get the details. Another way is come to the manage enterprise scheduler job definitions and get the details from here. And from here also you will get to know the parameters name. What are the parameters are there and all. But from here, if you want to go and check the parameters name, it will get difficult, right? It will be a bit difficult to identify all the parameter details. If you will go to the properties, here you can see the details and all, right? The here you can see we have the parameters. So where you will see, not able to see, but yeah, we have. And how you can easily find that parameter. So whenever you are working for integrations, before going to start integration, just go and run the manually. So here you can see when we run the import orders manually, we given the parameters. If we will expand the parameter set, we generally get the parameter details from here only. We provided all these parameters, right? And in the properties file, you have to you must have to provide all these properties, all the details, right? It's mandatory to provide, right? So here you can see, but all these parameters name we given, that's looking from front end, right? But back end it's passing something else. For example, here we provided the procurement BU, that's business unit, right? But in backend it's passing the business unit ID. How you will get to know? So if you will go for all parameters value, here you can see you are able to see this value, right? So what is the sequence of these parameters? What is the value for the parameters? Same value you have to pass from the OIC in a properties file. So now we get to know what all values property file will store. The properties file will store the first import job name, import job path name, the definition name, and the parameters. Which parameters having the which all parameters we are passing to the ESS job. These parameters plus one more thing, that the zip file prefix. So here you can see. Let me create one sample properties file. So properties file first it will contain the job name. So same here you can see. Let me pick from here. This is the value, right? So properties file will contain first this path. So you can also get from ERP Cloud Adapter, or otherwise you can directly get from this job definition, right? So path and the name. So here let me give the name as column name as ESS job path. This is the properties file simple we are. The properties file we will create from OIC only, and we know that in OIC file creating the file we have a stage file operation. With the help of a stage file only we can create the file. And in a stage file we required a structure, right? We required a sample file to write the file or create the file. So here I'm going to create a sample file, right? So here the first column is ESS job path, comma, that is it will be CSV file, just extension will be properties, right? So the first column is the ESS job path. Second one is that the definitions and the ESS job, ESS job code path definitions, whatever you can say. And the third one is the prefix of the zip file. So the zip file we created, what is the name of the zip file? Zip file name is FOAS import and all, right? So what is the prefix? Prefix you can use anything. You can use this, all are the prefix, right? Because this will be the change at runtime, right? So in next year it will be 2025 and all, but this value will fix always, right? So that's the prefix of the zip file. So this value will be used in the third parameters. Here we will have to provide comma. So the job path name, ESS job code, and the zip file prefix. Zip file prefix. Three values are there, and remaining after these three remaining will be the ESS job parameters. And what is the ESS job parameters? If you will go here in the ESS job which we run manually, you can see these all are the parameters. So how many parameters are there for import PO? Import PO parameters are 9 total. Argument 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All the same value we have to provide manually, right? So for that, let's go, and here we can see we have to pick the argument here. So this is the argument one is the parameters one. So let me give the name as argument one only here. Argument one, argument two till argument nine. Argument two, argument three, argument four, argument five, argument six, argument seven, argument eight, argument nine. So we have only total 9 parameters. That's all. So as this above we are using, right? This is just for header, right? Header for file, right? So you can use anything, arg1, arg2, anything you can use. So we given three values. The first one is that the path, the job code, and that the file zip file prefix, and we have to provide the parameter. So what is the first parameter value? This one. You can see here we pass the value, right? So what is that? Argument one is the ID, and this ID we are not able to identify from here. So for checking this, what is this ID? So you can just navigate to that VIP report, and where you will pass this ID, and you can check that this ID maybe that it seems that this ID will be here. You can see we have procurement be US1 business unit, US1. These two are same, so it seems that this 12 is the business unit. You can see here we have these two times, so it can be the business unit. So argument 1 is seems that BU. So I'm just giving here so that we can easily identify. Argument 1 is BU, and argument 4 is same, so it can be procurement BU, and it can be that requisition BU, right? Default requisition BU. So let me give as BU, and both are same in this case. So 1 and 4, right? So argument 4 is our again BU, and this 2 here you can see this is a unique value, so it seems that it is what it can be. Procurement BU is there, default BU is there. It can be this the user ID, right? Here you can see here we pass the user ID as Roth Calvin, but it's showing that the ID here, right? So it can be that the second BU second is the user ID, right? User ID for the Calvin Roth. So from front end we are passing the user name, but in the back end it passing the user ID. So all these details, right, we are passing here. We can easily identify from here. Even if you just for confirmation purpose, we can have a look on BIP report where we can just pass the name. This all the details are stored somewhere in the table, so you can once you will go for BIP report, you will get to know and you can check that too. So just for brief, we are checking here. So this argument too seems that it is the user. So I'm just going to pass the same value here. So sorry, the first value is this one. The second value is this argument 2, and 2 it can be underscore buyer, and the third is submit, and this submit is coming from somewhere while running. Let me see. This argument T we will pass submit only, that from where it's coming submit. If we will run this CSS job again, let's see that where this submit is coming. So go to the ESS job, run this job, import orders, right? Import what is this is the way we are creating the details for properties file, right? It's not that like randomly somewhere you will get to know. You just have to do these things only. So this is the same way whatever we done here, the same thing you have to do for others ESS job, right? Process will be same, the parameters name will be changed, value will be changed, but the process, the way of finding all these things will be same. So here you can see the parameter 1 is procurement BU, 2 seems that the default buyer, the buyer which we given, so that's looking same only. The argument 2 is the buyer. The third one is submit. Let's see that what is the third. So here you can see create or update, it's saying no. It means that we are just going to create, not the update. That can be that create or update value. And fourth is approval for submit and approve. And let's see what is the value for Argument 4, argument 4, no, it's not in the sequence, right? So that's the difficulties. So maybe it seems there's no here. So what is the no? And in this case here you can see this is no, right? And for no, so argument 6 is create or update, right? So let me give the name here. Argument 6 is create or update. C, create or update, right? So this is argument 6. And after that, here you can see approval is action is submit and for approval. So it seems that the fourth, that approval action is this one, right? This is approval action submit, right? So 3 is approval action. So argument 3 is action. I'm just giving a name here to identify, easily identify, right? Nothing else. So 4 is the submit. Now after that, what is the fifth parameters? 101. Here you can see argument 5 is 101. And what is this 101? If you remember, we are passing the batch ID here as 101, right? So 101 came here in this argument 5, right? So argument 5 is our 101. Argument 5, 5. So here we will just pass. Where is this argument 5? 101 is batch, right? So batch, go to the notepad. The 5 is batch, and we done with 6 with that create or update. 7, 8, 9 is remaining. So let's see that what is the 7. So 6 is an, and 6 already done, right? 6 is done, create or update. 7, so 7 is null. So null here we are passing in one column. The column is import source. It means that the value, the argument 7 is source, right? Here we have import source. So let me go here. 7 is source, and 8, let me see what is the value for 8. Value for 8 is y, and what is the y here? So here you can see it can be that communicate order. As we are not passing anything, it can be that y, right? It can be this one only, because this is the only left we have, right? After that you can see argument 9 is concatenating this value. So it seems that one is business unit and the id we are passing here, right? It's automatically doing. So what's remaining here? Batch id we are passing manually. Default requisition bu we already added here as bu somewhere. We had 2 bu, right? So argument 1 is 1 bu and fourth is bu we given. So hopefully this one, this default request, this one communicate order is that one, or batch ID 3, 3, 6 to 8 only. Okay. So from front end we are passing only 8 parameters, but in back end it's making at 9. And the ninth parameter is the concatenation of these two value, the business unit plus the 5. The 5 is the batch we are passing, right? These two value. So that's quite clear that y is something that 8, 8 is y, and y is something that as we are not passing anything, so maybe by default communicate order is considered as yes. So let me make at 8 as yes. 8 is, what is the name of the matter, is communicate order. COMMU commu order. And 9 is extra, right? So let me make it extra addition. Additional. So now let me put, just for sample, let me put all these values. So we given submit here. After that we have the same value here, this one, comma, and this 101. This is our batch. So we will add the batch logic in our integrations. Let's see that how we can add the batch logic, because the batch need to be passed into the properties file, and we don't have value for properties file, right? So we will use batch from the OIC logic only, right? So how we will do, we'll tell you that. So in properties file, null value we are passing with the hash value, hash capital NULL, null, right? So when you want to pass the null value in your properties file, just use this hash and capital NULL, null, right? So now here we have y, and the last value is put anything. And all this logic we will add in OIC itself. So this is our properties file, and what is the extension of this properties file? Extension of this properties file is dot properties. So just for verification, let me have a search. So let me have a properties file. Properties file for FBDI load using OIC. Let's see what is the syntax for that. Any of this you can use, not to get the name and ESS job even we have the details somewhere. I'm looking for any of the easy one. Let's go for this first one only. So can you can utilize this one also. Here you can see the properties dot properties, and here import job properties file format will be job package name, job definition name, the same we given, right? Here you can see your zip file prefix, this one. The third one is zip file prefix and the remaining the parameters, and the file will be saved with the dot properties, right? So let's utilize that one only. Package name we already given that package name, where this one. So that's the properties file. Let me copy this one dot properties. Now this is our properties file sample. Let me save this file. So I'm going to save in the same location. OIC and the property file, PO properties file. PO properties file dot properties file. It can be CSV file here. So while when we will create this file from OIC, then we will give the properties name as dot properties. Till now we will just save as CSV. Let me give that name properties here on itself, right? Dot properties. Okay, just save. So our properties file format is ready to use in OIC. But here you can see we discussed that we just have to update the logic for this import ID, that's we are using 1001. But each and every time, right, each and every time when we are loading the file, we just have to update this batch ID logic, right? So we cannot directly pass hard coded value each and every time. What we will do while creating the zip file only, or while creating the header CSV file, here instead of batch ID getting from the file server, we will provide the batch ID from OIC itself. So in OIC, if you remember, here we already added the logic for this. We added the logic for timestamp, right? So the same timestamp we will utilize as a batch ID. So just go to this integration. Here, let me edit this integration. I will show you that where we have to update the mapping. So here you can see here we created the timestamp, and in the same timestamp, and here we are creating the header file. In the mapping, if you will see, we are using the batch ID mapper. This one you can see this batch ID. So as of now this batch ID we are getting from file. So instead of file, let's use the variable, that timestamp variable we used, right? So here we change the mapping. So now in the CSV file, batch ID will be generated using the timestamp, right? Each and every time integration will execute, the batch ID will be different as a timestamp, and the same we will pass. So same we can utilize in the properties file too, right? So now done. Go back here. And here you can see where we have to create the properties file. Before creating the zip file, we have to create the properties file, so that properties file can also contain the zip file. And here how the zip file is working. While creating the zip file, we are passing the directory from where we have to merge all the file in a single zip file, right? From the temp directory, right? So in the same directory we have to create properties file too. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one more stage file here. Add a stage file, and with the help of this stage file we will create the properties file. So I will give the name as write property file underscore stage, and here we have to select the operation as write, and here we have to give the name. So properties file name can be anything, but extension should be dot properties only, right? So here I'm just going to use file name is po import po file dot properties, right? From where we will get the properties. So this is the same properties, I will pick it from here, right? So here we have 12 space, let's remove one. So now you can see our stage file will create one file with the name import po file dot properties, right? So that's done. And where this file will be created, so I want to create this file on the same location where we created other files, right? So other files we created in this slash 2 OIC itself, right? So now go continue. And yes, I have to provide the simple CSV file structure only. So click that one. And where is the file? This one, right? Properties file. Select here R for record, RS for record set. And here we'll make all column as optional, first as mandatory, next, and finish. With the help of this stage file, properties file will be created. And here we have to provide the data for this properties file. So from where we will provide the data for the properties file? So you can see the first value as ESS job path. And what is the ESS job path? Just for simple, we have this one, right? This one, which we already copy. So let me copy it here. Right click to get the mode. Now, after that, we have to provide the ESS job code. That's the definition. We are also saying that. So this is the ESS job code. Here we will provide. And now zip file prefix, so which we already given as same taken as sample. That here we are creating the zip file, and this zip file having the prefix as this one, right? We can utilize this one. So out of all this, you can even use FOS underscore only, or you can use FO underscore PO, all these things, right? So that the prefix. Prefix means that the next zip file we are going to create, the zip file contain what kind of file name. And here you can see argument one, that's BU. So here in our integration, we are passing the BU ID. Right here you can see we get to know what value we have to pass. We have to pass as a business unit. And that business unit ID we get to know here from here itself, right? Sorry. From here, this one. So this is the business unit we are passing here, right? So argument one, this one. So let me use the same business unit as a hard coded value here. Later you can change the logic for this business unit. It can be retrieved from the BIP report, or it can be retrieved from the OIC lookup itself, right? Because like from where you will get to get the file, that file will have the business unit name only, right? And here in properties file you require business unit ID, right? So how you will get the business ID unit ID based on business unit name? Just from that, the using the BIP report and using that any APIs, or referring the any lookups and all, right? So now the second one is a buyer, and here we know that what is the ID they use for that. This is the ID they use. I will use the same, because same value we used in that map. So that's why for creating the properties file, that's why simply we first generated the file from front end manually, then get to know that how many parameters are required, what kind of value for that parameters is passing and all, right? So argument 3 we have to pass as submit action. Here you can see these all are just the name which we provided here, right? These all are just the name we provided here. It's not related to anything related to that the properties file, because properties file will contain only one row, right? We just given header to create the file structure here. So the 4 is argument 4. Let's have a look. Argument 4 is the same ID. What is the argument 5 is the batch ID, right? 1001. And from where we are getting this ID logic? We are getting this ID logic from the timestamp, right? So argument 5 will be our batch timestamp, because the same timestamp we pass in the file only as a batch ID. Now here we have argument 6. Let's see what is the value for argument 6. The value for argument 6 is yes, yeah, no, right? And so I will use and here, as it's automatically generating and by default when we are not passing anything, create or update. And the source we are not passing anything. For the source we have null value, that here you can see the argument 7 is null. So and for null in OIC we are passing null by using hash capital NUL. This is this is the logic to pass the null value in the properties file. Now argument 8 is COMU, and what is the argumented value? Argument 8 value is Y. So let me use Y here. And what is the value for argument 9? So argument 9 value will be, you can see business unit ID underscore timestamp, right? The group ID or batch ID. So same we will use here. Just right click here, edit, and here we have to merge two values, so we'll use concat. The first value underscore, it will be hard coded, and batch ID we will get from the timestamp. So this is the logic for attribute 9, right? So now we're done with the providing the mapping for all the columns. Just go back. So using this way, our properties file is ready. So here we ready the properties file, and when we create the zip file by picking the source directory here, where is this our source directory in this location. So as we already created the all CSV file and all this all CSV file and all the properties file in the same location, so zip file will contain the properties file too. So after that, we are loading the properties file here. With the help of this endpoint, we are loading the zip file. As zip file contain the properties file, it will automatically invoke the ESS job, that the import ESS job. So let's me execute this one and run this integration. I will show you that how it will automatically trigger, because we already added the ESS job details in the properties file. Now integration is ready. Just go and run this integration. So then just click on run. We run this file here, integration. Here you can see what the timestamp it created. You can see the timestamp it created is 1226, right? Ending with 1226. Just wait to complete all this integration flow. I will show you that the file created at file server, loaded into the ERP Cloud Adapters and all, right? It's running that bulk upload ERP. Process completed successfully. Let me first have you look on this. The timestamp ended with 1226. Let's go to the file server. First, I will show you the file zip file created, right? Here you can see 1226 zip file already created. If you will download the zip file in the local, I can show you that zip file contain the properties file. Let me have you look on this properties file here. You can see this 1226. If you will expand this zip file, oh sorry, here this zip file doesn't have the properties file, right? So if this zip file doesn't have properties file, obviously it will not run the ESS job again, right? So let me have a look why this doesn't have the zip file, right? The properties file. If you will go to the ESS job, you can see it will not run the import job. You can see load interface file completed. ID is 424. If you will go back here, you can see ID is 424, right? But it didn't executed the ESS job, the import program ESS job, just because we don't have properties file in the zip file. So let me have a look for the reason why this doesn't have zip file, properties file. So let me have a look where we created the properties file. So this is the place where we created the properties file. Properties file we given all this data, that's true, right? All this value we given here. And if you will see what is the name of the properties file, you can see to OIC, right? Here the properties file got created, right? Properties file got created here in the to OIC directory, and zip file from where it's picked the file. Okay, here you can see the zip file we given directly to pick from as temp, right? And we created properties file in slash OIC. That's why it will not able to find the file at slash temp we given, right? So we have to provide the zip file properties file creation location is slash temp. So go back, execute, edit this integration. So using this way, you can debug your integration, and you can be make sure that your integration is working perfectly fine. So go back, find that, yeah, this is the properties file we created. Location we given that slash 2 OIC, that was the incorrect. The location is slash temp, right? So this is the location where we created our remaining CSV file slash temp. So if you will see the zip file process from where we are zipping the file, we are zipping the file from temp only, right? Slash temp. So that's done. We corrected that one. Go back. Now activate this integration. Integration got activated. Let's run this integration. Okay. So we run this integration. Let's see the timestamp. Timestamp is 1611, right? Ended with 1611. So let me show you that zip file created 1611. Let me refresh until that zip file created here. Yeah, you can see zip file created 1611. Let me import this zip file in our local system and let me have your look on this file. So 1611, this one, right? Once you will click here, you can see this file, the zip file having one extra file, that's import po file dot properties, right? If you will open this file, here you can see this file contain the details, right? The same details we provided in the mapping. And here you can see these all are the same parameters. The last value you can see it's having the concat value of business unit ID underscore the batch ID as a timestamp, right? So now everything is ready. Just go back and look, have an integration, right? So if you refresh, what is the ESS job name? The ESS job process ID. The process ID is this one, 37, right? 437 ended with 437. Here, come and refresh. Here you can see Control F, paste. You can see this is the load interface file for import. It executed the load interface file for import. After that, it's automatically executed the import orders with the process ID. And all this status of this one import job and all these things you will get to know in the callback integration itself. So in next session we will work on the callback integration, where we will see that how we can get all this ESS job details status in callback integration and all. If you want to see, here you can see, let me give you a brief on that. So once you will expand this load interface for import ID, that's the request set or job set. So you can see once you will click here, this one having the log messages, and if you will open the log file, here you can see this load interface file import having that much of log file. And what this log file content, this content all the CSV file which we loaded plus one properties file which we loaded. You can see that properties, and this log will tell you that this ESS job, that load interface file for interface, is responsible for placing the zip file to a specific UCM server, then unzipping the file and transferring all this file to a specific location from where that import program can pick the file, that that the transfer file interface program can pick the file and load data into interface table using the controller. You can see all this file you will be able to see. Even you will be able to see the details related to properties file too. You will search for PRO. Here no. If you will go back here, you can see this is the properties file. If you will see here, in the load, inside the load interface file, we have the file as transfer file. This transfer file is responsible for moving the zip file to the directory from where this load file to interface can pick the file, get the file of data and load the data into interface table. If you will see the log message of transfer file, which we already discussed, right? I already explained all this process and all. So here you can see it's picked the file from here and loaded the data into this and send the data to the specific directory from where this load interface file can execute and load the data into table. This is the SQL loader program. If anyone from EBS background, they can understand this SQL loader things. Here you can see this is the directory from where it picked the file, this out directory. It's picked this file, and whatever data inside this file, it's loaded into the interface table that's known as PO underscore headers underscore interface. And these all are the column that's executed. How many records? As header having only one record, so that one record reads and successfully loaded, right? And then after it's executed the import program. So this import program got executed automatically. So why it's got automatically? Just because we given the properties file. If you will see the import job details, you can see the text file. In the text file you will get to know about the purchase order number. This is the purchase order number created, right? Just copy and have a look on this fusion application. Cancel. I can show you here. So you'll go to the procurement. In this orders somewhere, yeah, purchase order. If you will search this order here, manage orders, yeah, order and search. Right, it's having the same USB business unit. User is different, right? Brown cache is not the user, that's why you're not able to find. If you will remove the buyer and all, you will be able to see this one. You can see the purchase order created and its open status. So that's the way how we can work on that the FVDI implements using that OIC. So that's the quite straightforward integrations which we worked on, and that's the simplest step, right? So and that what we follow, we just follow that preparing the CSV file for FDI template. We followed creating the properties file. We prepared the zip file. The zip file contains CSV file plus properties file, and we used ERP Cloud Adapters to invoke the bulk load that load the zip file into the ERP Cloud. And as we have already the properties file, it helps us to load the data into that base table just by using the import program. So that's all about that FDI implementation for today's session. If anyone having any questions and all, you can unmute yourself and you can ask. Thank you so much for joining.